Welcome to another episode of WirecastLive. I'm your host, Andrew Haley, and today we have a great show for you. I have Andrew Choe, the broadcast engineer from AdultSwim.com, and he handles all of their digital media content and broadcasting live 24/7. We're going to have a great conversation with him all about how they approach live streaming in general, comedy and daytime television, and all the trials and tribulations that they've been going through over there. It's a pretty interesting thing they're doing. I think you'll learn a lot. After that, we're also going to be doing a special retrospective. If you didn't know, this is our 50th episode. 50 episodes. They haven't canceled us yet, so we'll be doing a special sort of event for that, little event towards the end of the show. And then finally, if you're interested, you can stick around after the show. I'll be doing a live learning session on how to use flip-flop or auto preview swap within Wirecast. This is something a lot of people didn't even know is in there, so I think it'll be useful for you, especially if you're using Wirecast a lot. All right, stick around. It's another episode of Wirecast Live. Welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live, actually our 50th episode of Wirecast Live. I'm your host, Andrew Haley, and I guess I've been doing this at least 50 times. So welcome if you're new to the show. And of course, if you want to say hi, leave a comment in the chat, either on Facebook or YouTube, and just say where you're watching from. We also have a really cool show for you today. As I mentioned in the opener, we've got Andrew Choe coming from Adult Swim. It's going to be a great interview with him. He's on the line, standing by. We'll bring him on in just a moment. And then we also have a live learning session after the show, which you can stick around, and I will go into some great tutorials on how to better or more quickly transition within Wirecast using the auto preview, the live preview swap, and also known sort of colloquially as flip-flop transitioning. So stick around for that. Now, if you don't know Wirecast Live, we are live every Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and we do the latest sort of news and events. We bring on live guests and experts in their fields around live streaming, and we try to bring you anything that we think will be useful to you if you are in any way streaming live or digital media. So this should be the show you should check out. You can subscribe to get notified, never miss an episode at our email subscription list, which is available at telestream.net/WirecastLive. So you can sign up there to get notified. We will send you a link directly to your inbox letting you know when we're about to go live, as well as information on upcoming guests and shows. So it's a great place to get notified, and you will always know when we're going live. In addition, you can also follow us on any of the social media platforms, or not any of them, but most of them. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Telestream Wirecast on Facebook, at Wirecast on Twitter, and WirecastTube on YouTube. Any of those are great places as well. We post all these shows in archived format, kind of cleaned up and edited on the YouTube channel, so you can check out playlists of past episodes there. Okay. With that aside, I'd like to take a quick moment to say hi to people if you're tuning in on the chat. So please, again, just tune in and say hi. We also, if you're curious, have a contest that we do every week or almost every week here on the show. We give you a free t-shirt, and there's really no easier way to play. All you need to do is type in your guess between 1 and 100 into any of the either YouTube or the Facebook comments. Just type in your number. We'll pick the one. I actually have this envelope here, and I've already written down what the number is. At the end of the show, I will open this, and we'll see who's closest. And whoever you are, we'll send you a t-shirt. We've already given away 2 t-shirts so far. This is our 3rd time, so hopefully you guys will win. And if you don't, tune in next episode. We'll do another one. All right, upcoming shows and news. I want to cover who we've got. Next week, there actually is no show. I know we say every week. Sometimes I'm away at a trade conference or trade show. And I'll be in San Antonio next week at the ISTE conference, talking to teachers and educators, some of my favorite people in the world. We'll be at booth 135. So check us out there, and as a result, we will not have a show next Thursday. However, we have some great shows coming up right behind that. So coming up the following week, on the 6th, we have Jeff Adams, and he and I will be talking about what makes a great host. So Jeff is one of the best hosts, in my opinion, in the business, and we need to actually advance that slide manually. So hopefully, Deborah Lee, you can just skip ahead in the playlist. There we go. July 6th, he'll be on, and Jeff is a really, really great show. If you don't, great show host. If you don't know him, he does the Jeff Adams Show every week, and he has some really, really great experience and advice. So I think we'll be talking and diving in deep on what makes a great show host and how to be one, especially if this is something you're interested in doing yourselves. Following that, I'll be talking to another live streaming pro, literally Luria Petrucci from the Live Streaming Pros will be on to talk about the 4 levels of live streaming. This is something that I think is a very helpful model for those of you to kind of see the progression and how you can get better at this. So Luria is always great. I had a great time. She interviewed me back at the NAB show, and I'm looking forward to turning the tables on her and bringing her on our show. And of course, David Foster, who works with her, has also been on our show. So this should be a great interview, and you'll want to stay tuned for that as well. And again, you can get all those notifications at the telestream.net/WirecastLive link that we put up earlier. We'll throw it up again at the end of the show, so don't worry if you missed it. So with that aside, I would like to get into our main segment for today and bring on our guest, Andrew Choe. He is on the line from Atlanta through our New Tech Talk Show Skype box. Andrew, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, welcome, Andrew. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm really glad you could be on the show today. You're definitely one of, when we were sitting down and making a wish list of guests that we wanted to bring on, you guys were definitely someone we wanted to bring on because we knew that Adult Swim has been using Wirecast and you've been broadcasting up a storm out there. And we wanted to bring you on to talk about your experiences.
Right. Yeah, a storm is one way to put it. It's been, I call it just an out-of-control snowball that's now a full-fledged avalanche. It's just nonstop. I mean, we started out with an experiment with the fish tank. You can see it peeking behind me just a little bit, and we had just a fish tank streaming in a little window on our website, and it was our William Street Aquarium. After a couple weeks of that, the bosses came down. They're like, "This is kind of boring. How about talking over it or doing something with it and adding sound?" So scrambling around, we're like, "Okay, we can figure out a way to get mics hooked up to it." And once we did that, they were like, "How about showing graphics? How about taking phone calls and making it a talk show?" And it just escalated from there. And we did a 15-minute show one day. 2 days later, we did another 15-minute show that had a little bit more graphics added to it once we figured out how to key stuff on top of the shot. And once that happened, after our second 15-minute webcast, at this point we're still calling them webcasts, they were like, "Make it a 1-hour show and do it daily." And this was September something in 2014, and we've been going essentially every day since. And we were talking yesterday about how many episodes. I actually have today's rundown with me, and today we completed our 646th episode.
640. Congratulations. 646 fish episodes.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I don't know what it is. It's something.
Well, there's got to be, I think you probably qualify for some sort of Guinness Book of World Record award, like most live streamed fish shows of any.
That's probably true. I mean, we've been running for so long that we've had members and fish in our tank die. So we've gone through churn in our cast. I mean, some of the fish have passed on, and we've introduced new ones.
Some out of the show, right?
I mean, you gotta roll with it. The show must go on. So even if the fish are dying, you got to keep on going. And it's I don't know. I can't explain why it's still going.
It's amazing. Well, actually, so you kind of jumped into the fish tank, giving this history of sort of what you've been doing at Adult Swim. Let's back up 1 second, and then we'll come back to fish tank. For those who don't know what Adult Swim is, now, I mean, I kind of grew up on it. I knew I was watching it in college, I think back when it was sort of just getting started. It would air at 10 p.m. and later. It was kind of like the late night show on Cartoon Network.
Yep.
And so I would tune in, and there was always like sort of edgier stuff, more adult like humor, and just funnier shows that were more in my like target age demographic. And so, can you talk a little bit about Adult Swim and what it is and who you guys are?
Yeah, it started out as you mentioned, it was a experimental block of programming on Cartoon Network that at the beginning, I believe it aired twice a week. It was Sundays and Thursdays from 10 to midnight, something like that.
Mm.
And it started with Space Ghost Coast to Coast was the first show that was produced for this Adult Swim programming block. Everything was still cartoon. All the people that worked on it were Cartoon Network people, Cartoon Network editors and program directors, and they had found this stock footage, or they had this stock footage, which is essentially the beginning of Cartoon Network, was the Hanna-Barbera library, um, of this old cartoon, Space Ghost, that was sort of not even a cult classic. It was just this obscure cartoon that had a very small fan base, but more importantly, Turner had the rights for it, so it was free
Mm.
or already paid for.
Hmm.
And a group of editors decided to turn it into this show where Space Ghost is sort of this different character. He's voiced by this a different person. It was not the original voice from the actual cartoon Space Ghost. They brought in this guy,
I
and
was
he was like
wondering
this.
that. That's because like the Space Ghost original was way, way, way long ago, and so I was like, did they bring
Right.
back the original guy? Is this like two different Space Ghosts? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, I can't really. I'm not 100% sure about the history or development of it, but the
Mm.
gist of it is that Space Ghost, the person, is sort of a has been, and his cartoon was aired years ago. I think it was in the '60s or something like that.
Hmm.
So he's left with this talk show that he doesn't care about. In his mind, he's still Space Ghost. He's still a superhero. Why does he care about interviewing humans that he doesn't know what they do or care about what they are, and what they've accomplished? And the show is just this amazing mishmash, this disjointed interview of live action interviews that were filmed. Um, they were presented on that classic scroll down little wheelie monitor that came down, and Space Ghost is animated, and everyone else is animated around him. And it was just this brilliant deconstruction of the late night talk show formula, and it caught my eye. I mean, I'm old enough where I was in high school when it aired, and Sunday nights when I was at my friend's house, we would have like a little get together and we would just watch Space Ghost and be amazed. I mean, I remember the episodes with Michael Stipe of REM, and he was on, and he was obviously stoned out of his mind. He had these dark sunglasses on. He had no idea what he was doing. That actually may have been one of the interviews that were completely out of context. We had Turner had other interview footage, and they would just splice it, and they would be answering questions that were asked by somebody else, but they would cut it together for this show, and Space Ghost would ask these nonsensical questions. They would have these nonsensical answers. It was amazing. It was
Hmm.
phenomenal.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
And
it was, it was.
it was a complete mess, but it was so good, and it was so just weirdly strung together. But that's what made it so interesting, and that was the genesis of Adult Swim. From there, they realized that the ratings for overnight were gettable,
Hmm.
and there are viewers that are interested in not news and not Johnny Carson or David Letterman type stuff. There was an audience for childish,
Humor. There definitely was. It
exactly.
was it was sort of the college program, like, and maybe high school kid style programming. What people call
Yeah,
millennials now. Like that was our kind of our late night show. Like we didn't want to
yeah,
watch Letterman. We didn't want to watch. So yeah, like Adult Swim was where you went. And I think the programming just went from there. So if you guys are curious, you can actually, I'm gonna pull up the Adult Swim website here. And again, some of this humor is like more risque, and it's a little, it may not be appropriate for all ages. So just keep that in mind. I mean, the website's fairly tame for the most part, but if you're actually tuning into the content, you need to kind of, if you have young children or whatever, you might want to preview it before you let them view certain certain
the
shows and certain
the
aspects.
Adult Swim demographic is 18 and up.
18
So
and up. That's a great point. So yeah, so I've got the website right here. This was another sort of famous show on Adult Swim. Actually, I'm forgetting the name of it.
that is Aqua Teen Hunger
Aqua Teen
Force.
Hunger Force. There we go.
Yep.
Thank you. And then in now the part that you're responsible for. So now Adult Swim, we go kind of to where you started with the Fish Tank show. And this was a digital only show. It was something you streamed directly to the website, right? To here.
Correct.
And if you actually want to kind of find these live streams that Andrew's in charge of, you can head over to the stream section and you can watch these amazing live streams.
Roll ads. And you also notice the chat.
Right.
Beside it as well. So it is its own little community and audience.
Yeah. So this is kind of our focus for today, because really this is where you kind of came into the picture and started taking, responsibility for all this content, right?
I am responsible for the engineering of the content, not the development of the content itself. So it's my job, or it became my job, to make sure that whatever we did, you could see it and hear it, essentially.
Got it.
What we showed and what we said, that's up to others that are more creative than I. But it's on me, the engineering aspect of it and the encoding of it and the delivery of it, that sort of fell into my lap.
Got it. And so talk a little bit about how, let's talk a little about you personally as your background, Andrew Choe. How did you become a broadcast engineer responsible for Adult Swim's live digital content?
Wrong place at the wrong time. Well, I started at Adult Swim 7 years ago as a web developer. I've been a web developer my entire career. I interned during the initial .com boom in '99, and I learned JavaScript. And once I figured out my first programming language, and my mentor there was a college dropout, the classic case of the .com rich kid, I realized that computers or computer programming is what I wanted to do for a living. So I was a web developer all throughout, and that's what I joined Adult Swim's .com team as a developer. So the natural progression was, our website is boring. It's a typical network website, which no one goes to because there's nothing useful on it. Sometimes you can have clips of episodes, but the full form content, especially in the Hulu and Netflix generation, your own shows as a network are sold off to these other platforms for delivery. So you don't even own your content.
Right.
So what Adult Swim decided was, okay, let's just make new content. Obviously, the streaming delivery is advantageous because if you have an app for a mobile device, then anything that you stream and encode for your site can then be delivered to mobile devices as well. So there is certainly an inherent advantage to getting content on that platform and delivered in this manner. But because our actual shows were owned by Hulu, and that's the actual case, Adult Swim shows, you sign up for Hulu and watch Adult Swim. We had to just make our own new content for the website. So this initiative was begun fall of 2014 to start doing more and more things, streaming for our site, more original content that's got nothing to do with our television content,
Right.
and just see what can be done.
And so that's where FishCenterLive comes in. And
That's Fish Center was the first.
That was the first 15-minute live fish tank show. Possibly one of the first on the internet. So I'm gonna actually show you, and longest running, right? So let's do a quick clip here so people can see Fish Center in all its glory. So I'm gonna pull this up here. You can find this on the Adult Swim channel on YouTube, but I'm gonna pull this up. Can you guys hear that out there? Pull up that computer audio. So there you got the call-in, voiceover.
The cast of the tank has changed so much.
Oh my God! Well,
I bet you know all these fish by name.
Oh yeah.
So this kind of actually, you've kind of answered my question implicitly, which was, so this is a real fish tank in your studio.
That's correct.
In the
It's
William
in our
Street Studios over in Atlanta.
That's correct.
And where did the fish tank come from? Like, and whose idea was to point a camera at it?
The fish tank just came out of boredom. We wanted something in the office that was not dreary. We needed something alive, something more interesting than plants. We figured a fish tank would fit the bill. And once we got the tank in and we realized that it was, a pretty good looking tank, let's just point a webcam at it. In the past, the Adult Swim site had a webcam that was sort of fly on the wall for the office. Back in the day, the Adult Swim message boards was its own little online community, sort of like a micro Reddit for just Adult Swim superfans. And back in the day, there was a webcam on that section that was just a literal webcam sitting on a little roller cart that was pointed at a random hallway in the office. And it was sort of a running thing, and we kind of did away with it for a little while. And we were just mulling around, just talking one day, and we're like, well, we have this new fish tank. Let's stream the aquarium and just make it the aquarium stream. And again, it was just the idea is just give the people that come to the site regularly something new and something dynamic. A live feed of a live tank certainly fit that bill. And then it just sort of timing wise, just coincidentally or serendipitously, depending on your point of view, coincided with this whole Hulu deal and the realization that moving to digital and digital delivery and encoding media and encoding video was going to be a priority, if not the main method of doing things for the future. So this little feeder stream of a fish tank was the likely candidate for at least Adult Swim as a network to build upon.
Right.
And that's what we did. We literally
Kept
built
adding
upon
to it.
this single stream. We stepped up from a little webcam that was USB into a piece of junk Windows XP machine at that point in time to an actual camera. And then we were like, well, then we need lights. We need mics. If we want to talk to people, we need a phone. And it just grew and grew, and it continues to grow. And the content, again, remains ridiculous. It's a stupid fish tank, and the fish have no idea that we're talking about them. You superimpose these graphics over them, and
You do contests. Like, here's another little clip where you're running like first place, second place between the fish here.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
but they're all of course just scoring zeros because they're all fish. So
Right.
it's right. They're not.
But that's also the beginning of the week, so that's the scoreboard for our signature game, which is Coin Quest.
Got it.
And they'll sum over coins superimposed over the tank. Yeah, you can see it in the
Yeah, I
thumbnail.
can get there right there.
And this was actually another learning of graphical presentation. What could you do when you have the freedom of an actual just full-on computer keyed into your source, as opposed to the traditional television graphics? Television graphical systems that the Weather Channel or the news uses are these closed systems that you have to prepare graphics ahead of time, put them into the system, and then they're presented. As part of this revolution with digital production and using just live computer feeds is, instead of a $65,000 graphical presentation telestrator or anything like that, you can just plug in a laptop with Photoshop and a Wacom tablet and essentially do the same thing.
Right.
It doesn't look quite as good, but again, just the whole notion of this immediate self-production, the Web 2.0 thing, just plug in a webcam and go, it translated well to this experiment. Even though we're 3 years running, I still call it an experiment, because we were able to do that in real time and react to whims. These are literal whims of our executives and our creative directors and the people that want to see things happen. If we can do it with a computer, or we can find a way to do it, then we try it.
Right.
The beauty of the low cost of all this stuff is there's not that much pressure, at least from a monetary standpoint, for us to do anything, to become anything. It's just like make funny stuff and just continue trying to do things and innovate different ways to present content. And that was my key motivation from the get-go when we started this whole thing. Because again, I started as a web developer, web programmer. I have no interest in broadcasting. I still have no interest in broadcasting. I have no interest on being on TV. I just happen to work for a television station.
Right.
But the 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 key to all this is no matter what we're showing, whether it's a fish tank or anything else, the the gear and hardware and methods that we use to present it and encode it and deliver it, that's universal, to whatever you're showing, and that's what interested me, and that's what
Yeah.
kept me.
And I think they brought in the right person for that because clearly you were willing to keep learning, keep iterating on your gear and the stuff that you were using to implement this and get more efficient and better. And it's amazing to me. Literally, you guys started with a fish tank, and you're now into like almost 24/7 live programming. I mean, are you even streaming all night too, programming?
I mean, it's replays of that day's shows,
Okay.
but we are streaming 24 hours a day.
Okay.
I
And
mean,
have you seen the audience grow substantially since you started? I mean, is this just like, do you continue to see positive gains, or have you like, I mean, do you even have any metrics on that?
I think that in general we do get reports. Again, using the classical metrics. And yes, the audience does seem to be building slowly, although sometimes it'll plateau. I think it depends on the school year. Summer, our numbers are usually lower in the summer just because it's summer break and people have things to do. They can actually go outside. They're not stuck in class.
Right.
Although we do get a lot of phone calls to our shows of people that are in class waiting for their professors, whatever. It's interesting.
Well, and
So
also the question is kind of content you want to serve up, right? Because you're starting low bar, low entry, but it's almost ambient style streaming. It's almost
right,
like great background, something to put on in the background while you might be just doing a task or cleaning the house or I
right.
don't know, doing some homework that you just don't need to pay a lot of attention. You can kind of check out the stream, check out. It's almost like a weird digital version of like the daytime TV is why in a lot of ways because
Yeah,
you're not doing high production must focus. It's not like watching episode 24, right? You're not being like,
that's
oh,
right.
I can't stop, I can't do this other thing because I have to watch whatever's on the screen. It's almost like you can kind of check in, check out like a fish a little bit and sort of keep paying attention. And there's always something kind of funny, something fun going on, nothing too high stakes. And to give you
Yeah,
an
I mean, a
example,
lot of
here's the
people.
winner of your fish contest. I can throw this up
Uh,
real fast. You can see that old blue came in ahead with 5 points, having swum over one of the coins at least 5 times.
That's right. He was a very, very successful fish. He was a big passer angel. We actually had to remove him from the tank. He became too big.
Ah, okay.
He outgrew the tank, and he was picking on the other fish and causing undue stress. So we actually had to exile him.
Old blue, but his record will remain intact.
That's right. For future posterity or posterity.
Oh.
Uh,
Yeah, so I think that we have to kind of be cognizant of time here, and I want to actually open this up. If people have any questions for you, please type them in. If you have questions for Andrew or what they do at Adult Swim, but I'll try to ask some hopefully intuitive questions here. So the first thing that I want to know is how where are you guys at with your production gear now? Like, I mean, you started with a webcam. You started with like probably, I think you started with a copy of Wirecast and just going out, as often as you could. But now you have several studios. You have multiple cameras. You've kind of really grown it, right?
yes. So our in-studio acquisition. I'm using all these industry terms. I'm assuming that people understand that, but our in-studio stuff. So lights, mics, cameras, that has certainly grown, and with each production, it has grown, particularly the production. So, Fish Center is one camera, and now it's multiple cameras on a fish tank, though, and there's no on-screen talent, so to speak. There's not an official cast. Like we're all behind the scenes. You only hear us. But we also have shows that have hosts, multiple hosts, two hosts. So we have multi-camera shows now. So we did have to grow that. As we did that, we realized we had to get into proper video switching to manage all the inputs. So we have Blackmagic switchers, again, keeping costs low. And for keying, we still use a combination of Blackmagic and other things. for graphical keying and graphical presentation. We have a huge mix of computers and cameras in each of our productions. Our audio things have all grown. We have boards that have, when we first unbox them, I can't imagine ever filling these up, and all of our mixers are over capacity now.
Wow.
As far as an encoding thing, that has also constantly grown with our needs. But Wirecast, we were using it as our primary encoder for a long period of time, actually. But even now that we moved on to hardware encoders, we still use Wirecast for times when we simulcast to Facebook. Your integration to Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, all those other platforms is very useful to this day, especially for us. And that's why our standard studio setup does include a computer running Wirecast for these times when we do simulcast. We used to simulcast to Facebook once a week. It hasn't become quite so regular in recent times, but whenever we do, Wirecast and its ease of connection, I guess, is the way to. Its integration to these other platforms makes it the best choice for accomplishing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then do you have little production kits for in the field? Do you send people out with little mic studios, computer cameras and so forth?
We do. We have a mobile rack and a mobile setup that we take on the road. We were in New York for our Upfront week in May. We live streamed from our Upfront party. We've done that for the past 3 years running. We were on the floor of New York Comic Con last fall in New York in our see-through cube booth. That was interesting. We're going to be there in that same plastic booth, but so San Diego Comic Con, which is coming up, will be out there as well. Behind the convention center in a field, which is where the Adult Swim presence and activation is, and we'll be live streaming from a field behind the convention center in San Diego. It's just thinking about it's giving me anxiety, but taking this on the road was another one of our early missions, and making this mobile. But again, that's the advantage of streaming. Live streaming, because it's so lightweight to begin with, it's easy to do remotely. Doing it in our first test run was like a local bar here in Atlanta, and once we proved that we can have remote venues, and that opened up the production possibilities to literally anywhere there's cell phone signal or internet, we can broadcast or encode and stream. I guess broadcasting is kind of a television word, and that scope continues to grow, and we're constantly being challenged. I mean, half of me thinks that when our higher ups are asking to go somewhere and do it, they're just messing with us just to see if it can be done.
You can do it. Yeah. Are you starting to do any hybrid shows where you have somebody out in the field at the bar, for example, in Atlanta, and then also someone back in the studio, and they're communicating and they're doing,
Yeah, we are doing
show?
that. Yeah, and that's sort of an advantage that we have being part of a proper television network is. We use systems that actual news teams use, if not literally CNN, who is a sibling network of ours. But remote acquisition units, they're basically broadcasters and encoders that ride cellular networks. So we have utilized those. We do utilize those. For instance, our 11 a.m. show, it's called Stupid Morning Bullshit. And it is just, in fact, an hour of stupid shit in the morning to watch. The show host had a goat on the show, and she walked the goat a block up away from our office to a liquor store, and she bought the goat booze. And with those remote acquisition units, a cameraman followed her just up the street, walking the goat into a liquor store and buying booze. So yes, mixing up the content and changing things and challenging ourselves, that is certainly encouraged, much to my chagrin. But again, like, there's a certain element of charm in being desperate. When you're truly desperate and barely hanging in there, the audience definitely relates to that, which I can tell you for sure, because there have been so many moments with our streams where things have half broken, if not all the way broken, or the audio is muted, or the video has gone to black, or something has gone wrong live. And that bustiness or whatever word you want to use is charming. And in traditional television, that could never happen because there's so many dollars at stake and everything has to be
Right.
polished. But in this encoding format, it's just everyone that consumes YouTube videos or anything that's streamed is used to this level of,
Grassroots
jankiness.
production almost, and just kind of from
Yeah,
the ground up.
and so you have sort of a bias there, and so it's a good bias. It's like, okay, well, you're web streaming, you're live streaming, it can be crappy. If you're periscoping from a concert, the resolution is gonna end up being like 78 by 42 because the LTE connection is going to be crap coming out of a forum.
Right.
So you're watching this grainy video with pixels the size of, Scrabble tiles, but
Right.
everyone's okay with it because that's just what streaming video looks like. So we have definitely leveraged that level of forgiveness for a lot of our productions, but at the same time, it frees you to really push yourself as a production to just try the most off-the-wall things that you would never imagine doing. And never mind actually broadcasting it or shooting it on video, but just doing it in general. Like, who walks a goat to a liquor store?
Adult Swim online.
Evidently. So yeah, that's the thing. Again, if it's my job to be able to show and hear everything that we do, the other thing that's unfortunate for me, even though it makes it awesome, is this building is not short on very imaginative and creative and talented people. So if there were a built-in group, and all of our shows are staffed by our employees, we're not bringing in actors, we're not recruiting social media people, whatever the term is now, influencers. We don't have those. We have people that have day jobs that are production assistants or video editors, and we'll just pull them into a studio and be like, hey, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, what are you doing? Because you want to be on a show? You can be on a show if you want. So all of our things to date are homegrown, but again, it's less about the content and more about just proving and establishing the fact that we can do it, that we can become a true streaming network. Whereas, streaming and encoding is usually thought about granularly. You'll stream one single gaming session, you'll stream one single game, you'll stream one tournament. We just leapt across all of that and over those expectations, and we're like, let's just do a streaming network. Never mind 1 hour at a time. So, the first challenge obviously is all the hardware and software, and most programs aren't built to run 24/7. So some of our early challenges, and they continue to be challenges, is finding ways and solutions that can actually do what we want to do, which is be a proper all digital network. Which, we essentially are there, but there's still, better ways to do it.
Yeah. So, the final two questions then for you. Like, I think you kind of answered the first one, which was, what have you learned? It sounds like, if you want to talk about that or add anything to what you said, but I thought it was great. This being hungry makes you find solutions quickly, and that you should just get out there and try stuff and keep building. This is a very forgiving time and medium, and there's
Absolutely.
no reason to not start with just a fish tank and build from there.
Yeah.
But if you have any other thoughts, so what have you learned in the 3 years you've been doing this? And then secondly, what's next? Where are you going from here?
Okay, so what I've learned is there's a huge gap between television technology and computer technology. Computer technology is true cutting edge. It is the best. It's the state of the art. Television, not so much. So this digital broadcasting stuff is the mishmash, the combination of the two. It's like a forced arranged marriage. And when we were starting out, I was running into so many conflicts between archaic and just crap TV stuff that just did not play well with modern computing stuff. HDMI connections versus SDI connections, just little things like that. And when we tried to use like hand-me-down or old TV systems, like we have a TV replay system, which is essentially a DVR. So you think of it from, computer kid standpoint, it's like, oh, all I need is a solid-state hard drive and a recorder, and you can just make your own DVR.
Right.
Well, TV people don't know that. So TV people will spend 5 figures for this unit that essentially is just a solid-state drive. Whereas like all of us computer nerds are like, that is a $800 solid-state hard drive and a joystick that controls it. That can be done. So seeing the gap that exists between current traditional broadcasting stuff and the new modern computer stuff, that was very interesting and challenging to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And each day I run into a new thing that we have to overcome. So that challenge is everlasting.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that frustrated me early on, and even now, is because no one else is really doing this, perhaps for good reason, but no one else is really doing it, and it's one of the few things that you can't Google an answer to. And that's when I knew that we were really onto something as far as innovation goes, when the issues that I was running into, and I would, ask the Google because someone surely has asked this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When I was realizing that nobody, in fact, was actually asking any of these questions and these solutions were not out there, that's when I knew we were really onto something. I'm like, okay, I think that's the sign that we truly are doing something that no one else or very few others are doing at the moment, and we're ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
In my fantasy world, the television technology will catch back up with computing. Who knows? I go to NAB every year, and I'm not really impressed yet. But at the same time, the difference in dollars, I can see why there's not really monetary incentive to catch up. Because why, who wouldn't want you to buy their $25,000 replay system instead of spending $1,200 on a laptop with a solid state drive? But again, I don't want to get into that industry war. But as far as where things are going, so I'd say where things are going is the advent of digital streaming and digital broadcasting is going to force, and there's already evidence of this, it's going to force traditional computing companies to manufacture hardware specifically for digital encoding and streaming and broadcasting. And Wirecast gear, which I checked out on the site, is similar to the new tech TriCaster. The companies now are catching up, and they're building hardware and software solutions that work together to do all the stuff all together. And that, I think, is the next step. What you're going to see is an industry that sort of that appears to fill in the gap that currently exists between broadcasting video acquisition and the encoding and delivery of it all. That gap is going to have to be filled in by technology, and I think that's where it's going to go next. My hope is that someone soon builds encoders that run 24/7, no problem, that don't require too much heat, that don't scream when they're trying to encode 4K, that have the latest and greatest GPUs that can crunch 1080, if not 4K video. That's where I hope things go, and that technological charge is going to have to come from the Telestreams of the world, the tech companies of the world, because I can tell you right now, Panasonic, Sony, and all the TV people, they're not going to do it.
Well, on that note, there's an encoder you and I should talk about later. So we should chat a little bit about that after the show. But Andrew, you've been great. Thanks so much for coming on the show, talking about your experiences, what you're doing over at Adult Swim. I think this is a real sort of a different perspective on a different side of the streaming, challenges that we all face and that we're all out there doing. And I think you guys are really, like you said, you're out on the cutting edge, particularly with the content you're putting out there. I don't think anybody is putting out content like Adult Swim. There's really no other sort of live comedic powerhouse that's doing this 24/7. If you guys are curious, you can check out more at adultswim.com. And Andrew, where are some good places to find you if people want to learn more about your content and follow what you guys are doing?
Well, Fish Center, our flagship show, has social media presences. FishCenterLive is the Twitter handle. FishCenterLive is our Instagram, I believe, and Facebook.com/FishCenterLive. That's also the show that I co-host daily. So if you want to hear some more of my voice, that's where you can get that stuff, is Fish Center.
Perfect.
But AdultSwim.com streams. We have live shows starting at 10 a.m. and our last show of the evening, that's Eastern time. We have a 10 p.m. live show every day as well. That's called Blood Feast. So we are streaming all across the day.
Yeah, always something going on over at AdultSwim.com.
Always something.
I love it. Well, it's been a real pleasure having you on, Andrew. Thanks so much. I hope to have you on again soon, and appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me. It's therapeutic and cathartic.
All right. Well, we'll hope to see you again soon, man. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Andrew Choe and the consummate professionals over at Adult Swim. As you can see, they really know what they're doing, and Andrew has come a long way in just 3 years in terms of what he's doing, and what he's challenged and tasked with doing is quite impressive because, as you know, being in a traditional broadcast network like Turner, he's really at the sort of the conjunction of this, as he called it, the computing world and the broadcast and TV world, and they really are beginning to converge, and we see that a lot over and over again here at Telestream, and we do see the virtualization, the IT-ification, I guess you could say, of the classic and traditional broadcast space and technology. So it's a very interesting time, and I think he is really one of those people positioned uniquely to see and deal with all the challenges and the opportunities that enables. And as you can see there, from just the creative content side of things, Adult Swim is one of a kind, as you can see. So they're really if you enjoy that kind of humor, or that is for you, you should definitely check them out. And they are, again, sort of something fun to put on in the background once in a while and just see what silliness and craziness they're coming up with next. All right, so with that aside, I would like to announce today's winner of our live t-shirt giveaway. I have the envelope here, and we are going to see what number I wrote down in the episode. I'll fold this out. All right, guys. If you were closest to the number 68, if you chatted 68 into either Facebook or YouTube, you're the winner. And according to our calculations here, that is James Myers with a guess of 48 on Facebook. So James, congratulations. You should private message us if you'd like to win. If you'd like one of these t-shirts, you are today's winner. So congrats. We will send out that t-shirt. Let us know which one you want and what size and where to send it in your private message. Facebook at Telestream Wirecast is a good way to message us and get us that info. Congrats. And last but not least, we have a few things to remind you of. Don't forget to sign up for our email list at telestream.net/WirecastLive. You can get notified of our shows and our schedules and upcoming guests like Andrew. And of course, you can follow us on social media. We do appreciate a like, and if you share this, that would help us get the word out about the show. And finally, for those of you who want to know where you can find us on the social medias, on the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the Wirecasts and the Twitters, those are our handles there. And we will be, again, out at ISTE next week, so there will be no show next week, and I'll be at booth number 135. So stop by if you're curious, if you're going to be in the San Antonio, Texas area, June 25th to the 28th. And I'd like to say thanks quickly to our partners for this show. We partner with some of these lovely companies out there that help us get this show done. And so thanks to all of them for helping us make this show possible. And of course, thanks to you guys for tuning in. And we really appreciate you checking us out. And again, give us a like or subscribe and share if this is something you think other people in the live streaming space would enjoy. And I will see you back here in 2 weeks for another episode of Wirecast Live. We'll be interviewing Jeff Adams. And stick around after the show credits for our live learning session if you want to learn about flip-flop transitions. And actually, I forgot one other thing. I want to roll this 50th episode retrospective. So again, having just completed this show, we've done 50 of these episodes now. And Deborah Lee, my partner in crime here, has put together a little short video of how bad and how different we were in the early days of this show. So 50 episodes. Here's celebrating 50 episodes. After we roll this video, we'll then end the show with the credits for today, and then we'll do our live learning session if you're still here. Thanks so much for watching, and it's been a pleasure. Hey guys, how's it going out there? We're streaming live on Facebook. So this is our very first live stream to Facebook Live on our Telestream Wirecast page. Thanks for looking at Wirecast, and thanks for watching the broadcast. Everyone, my name's Andrew Haley, and welcome to Wirecast Live. This is our 5th episode, I think. All right, you guys, I think that's all for today. We'll see you next time, next Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our episode 10. There it is, episode 10 of Wirecast Live. Keep streaming. See you later. And it's just a place where you can come, hang out, ask questions. We cover different topics related to Wirecast and live streaming in general. Valentine, thanks for tuning in, and everybody else, Mario, and the rest of you. So we'll see you next week. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of Wirecast Live. I'm Andrew Haley, and I'm the live streaming and product evangelist here at Telestream. I wanted to say thanks to all of you for watching. This has been Wirecast Live, episode 20. Welcome to episode 25 of Wirecast Live. I'm Andrew Haley, and I am your host. We are going to be focused on a tutorial for today. And welcome to episode 28 of Wirecast Live, the last episode of 2016. And matched to each photo is one of the Facebook emojis. So you can choose which contestant you think has the ugliest sweater. And we will see you back in January after the holidays. And congratulations to Sean, the winner again of the ugly sweater contest. Hi everybody, today is the day we launch our season 2 of Wirecast Live, and we're coming at you with a new show format, new segments, including this show and the overview, which we are streaming to you live. The secrets to live production. What makes you successful, what makes you not successful. How to bring animated characters into your live streams. Well, ever since we saw the movie Roger Rabbit, we've all wondered how they could do this. And more specifically, how can you do this in the moment, on the fly, and live? I don't think this is kind of a gimmick or, just some sort of fun feature, but when would you use this? Why would you use this? And my answer to that is really straightforward. Today we're going to be talking with Dave Werner from Adobe.
Red Monster and Red Monster Live. This guy's kind of our mascot.
Andrew Haley, I'm the live streaming and product evangelist for Wirecast here at Telestream, and every week we come to you live from our studios here in California at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday. NDI is completely changing the way that we do video production. It's basically taking capture cards and cables out of the equation and just relying entirely on your Ethernet cable. We basically cover anything to do with live streaming and production on this show, and I try to bring you the latest news as well as experts in their fields around live streaming and live video production. So I think it's well worth checking out if this is something you're interested in. And of course, we also do live learning sessions, which you should stick around after the show because we do continue and always do a hands-on demo of some kind where you can either learn in-depth tips and techniques, either related to Wirecast or other products or other services around the live streaming environment. Giveaways, my favorite part. By the end of the show, we will announce the person who was closest to the number that I have written here. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors for this show. All right, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.